Welcome to Inspiring Women in Travel Asia. I'm your host today, Sumi Surin, Senior Advisor of the Phuket Hotels Association. Today, I'm very excited to have a very special guest, also one of my good friends, Elena Orru, who is the General Manager of the Pavilions Hotels and Resorts based here in Phuket. Welcome, Elena.
Good morning. Thank you so much for inviting me.
I'm very excited to interview you today. Although we've known each other for a few years, Elena and I work together at the Phuket Hotels Association, where Elena volunteers as one of our marketing committee members and drives initiatives for the association. So, yeah, I'm very excited to hear about Elena's professional journey and also what inspires her and brought her to Phuket, amazing Thailand. So a little bit about your background, Elena, and yeah, I look forward to hearing more.
Okay, so basically, being half Italian, half German, I grew up and studied in Germany. And then in early stages of my career, I started to work in Italy to follow my roots. And my father always inspired me, Elena, you need to do things that others don't do and make use of your languages. So my first employment was in Sardinia in the travel industry. And through my network that I created whilst being there, led me then to Thailand for the first time in 2010 for Hotel Katatani. And from there, I built my career. So I always had somebody that recommended me at the beginning of my career. I think that's very important. If you find one to three key people that will help you to mentor you, but also bring you forward. So I went back to Europe, to London, to improve my English skills. But at the same time, I was like, oh, London is so dynamic and very famous for the luxury hospitality industry. So at the beginning, I was working, for example, for the Landmark London. But at the same time, I was like, I'm just working in front office. So I would like to expand my knowledge and get the knowledge as fast as possible. So at the same time, I was working at the Ritz for private functions. So I was filling basically two shoes in one time. And that led me to have the knowledge and the career needed as fast as possible. So many years later, then I was again recommended to work for a Japanese hotel in Vietnam. And again, seeing actually another side of another country and a way of working. And this then led me then finally to go to Bangkok, back to Thailand. And here I am still 7 years after.
Wow, so much in such a short period of time.
Yes.
And I and you're also very young. I mean, to achieve and come this far, I commend you. So I really admire
Oh,
your
thank you.
journey so far. And it mustn't have been easy as well, with different cultures, different challenges, and also different roles that you've played. And have you been in hospitality from the very beginning? So yeah, what are the challenges that you face, not only in different in foreign countries, but also in different roles that you have been in?
So I went for a non-traditional route, which is basically I started my career in front office guest relations and then later on in sales and marketing. And at one point, I realized I would like to know more about HR. So um, in London, I worked for one company in property management, luxury property management, where they identified that I have a good skill for HR. And from that, basically, they combined the role. And I was in operations at the same time in HR and combining the best of both worlds, going on site inspections at that time, for example, and just controlling the standard customer service that was given. So I did have that non-traditional way by having exposure to departments that maybe others don't follow when they become a GM. But that allows me actually to understand each department and to say, okay, I know exactly what's your challenge and I know how to fix it. At the same time, I can say that sometimes when you leave the traditional hospitality industry career, it was a little bit more difficult to get back into the high-end luxury market, working in the hotel. And what I also realized that certain challenges, I believe, are more given to women, as in maybe a man wouldn't take up the challenge because it could destroy maybe a certain curriculum or career, because there is a risk taking up, let's say, a little bit a neglected team and trying to polish them to diamonds again. And I was like, I love the challenge. I don't like the perfection, because I want to fix the things and make them better, and I know how to. So this is how I built my career, and really led me to higher positions in a more faster and efficient way than usually.
Yeah, I can see, just looking at your professional journey as well, you've been in multiple roles from bottom up, and also, you tried various different things. So your
Mm.
diversity in different areas is quite vast, as well. And also, being a younger generation, you also
Mm.
adopt many unconventional,
Yes.
hotel strategies that not many traditional hotel leaders would adopt. So I think that also gives a very different edge to the property that you operate, which is very visible, which I can say from our membership based within the Hotels Association. So so I'm sure you come across I guess hesitation when it comes to adopting new changes. I think
Mm.
traditionally in hotels, if it's not broken, don't change it.
Exactly.
That kind of attitude. So yeah, I think, as a woman and also trying to convince hotel owners to make changes, it's never easy, especially, I think it's still quite a male-dominated world in the hospitality landscape. So, yeah, so what are the strategies that you come about uh, putting business cases across and
Mm.
pitching?
I must say, I had partly very inspiring leaders or managers at the top. For example, Hotel Nico in Vietnam, my um, general manager was at that time 65 plus years old, Japanese, very, very traditional, but he had lived in Germany for many years. So he had a little bit that exposure and different way of thinking. So that allowed me actually to put ideas forward. And he was like, yes, I'm happy for you to try it. And the same now at the pavilions. I think our owner is very inspiring, because he is somebody that says, yes, let's try this, let's do things in a different way. But in other companies where I maybe didn't have this forward thinking direct boss, usually sometimes you can even find forward thinkers that are maybe not your direct boss. It could be even somebody reporting to you, or somebody of a different department, and could be even F&B, and you work in front office. But it's like finding somebody that is quite visionary, and then together evolving and developing certain strategies, and then basically together to put it forward, because two voices are stronger than one voice, or three voices, right? So building up on that and building a little bit your own little peer group, and together you can make it happen, because you can't make it happen by yourself. So you need to have the people that have bigger visions than you. Even it doesn't need to be like-minded all the times. You can also learn from others, right? And I think in a little bit certain management styles that some might follow, they are like, oh, my opinion is the only opinion. But you need to be always very open to it in order to grow yourself, but also to grow the company.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned quite a few about mentors and
Mm.
leadership. So I think it's really important who
Mm.
are the people in your life that actually foster your career and also push your boundaries and challenge yourself. So and also it's demonstrated in your career journey that many of the work that you've done and roles that you've been in through recommendation and word of
Mm.
mouth. And I think there's nothing more powerful than that.
Mm.
Do you also adopt the same philosophy in what you do for your up and coming staff, and also in your leadership role?
Yes, definitely. I must say, I'm, of course, always somebody that tries to develop the staff. And when I realize we have people with potential, or the attitude is right and they are just very hungry to learn, of course, we will focus on that specific person. I think it is very often that leaders forget and they say, oh, this person is really good at their job. Let's not change that, and then kind of waiting until they file for the resignation. But it doesn't need to lead to that point. And I give you an example. In my current guest relations team, I have two staff that are very, very hungry for more, right? And yesterday at the HSMAI digital conference, I actually sent one person there that is from the guest relations team, because he said, I want to know more. I want to be a young GM at 30, and I have 6 more years to go. Elena, what can I do? And I'm like, okay, let's involve you a little bit more, because there is nothing worse than just knowing somebody wants to develop, but not helping because you are scared of losing them, basically. But the more you hold on, the more likely actually to lose them. So rather help them develop their interests, and see maybe they can become a key person at a higher level within a very short period of time in your own company.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Actually, in one of our GM's meeting last week, a presentation by
Mhm.
a special guest speaker also mentioned that progression and also recognition is far more valuable, or people prioritize that over monetary, for instance,
Mm,
or
exactly.
numeration package. So it's really important that we don't keep them in the same position
Mm,
because they're very good at it, but always challenge them and also ensure there's a career progression, or they are moving forward. I think that gives people a little bit more loyalty, and also
exactly. Yes.
a goal to work towards,
Mm,
because if not, they feel like, okay, they're not going anywhere,
mm,
and they get complacent as well, because it's a job
exactly.
that they can do in their sleep probably. um
Yes.
yeah, so they need, we always constantly improving ourselves, so if
Mm,
we're given
mm,
the platform and freedom to do that, we definitely could achieve more. And also I think COVID taught us a few things as well. We all kind of, when resources were limited, we all had to do multiple roles and wear different hats, or all the hats at one time.
exactly.
So,
Yes.
so yeah, we do have to skill up, and it's really important that our leaders recognize that.
Mm. And like you said, it's also a form of appreciation that goes beyond the monetary. And this helps, of course, like you said as well, to help the loyalty, to say, okay, this person is going to stay more than 1 or 2 years, because the hospitality industry is so fast living. Sometimes a staff would leave, let's say, for 500,000 baht more. But actually, it's not needed if you help them to develop and they feel like, oh, yes, they invested in me. So, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Now that's really good. I also see, because I follow social
Mhm.
media quite a bit, especially with the pavilions. There's many new programs that you've
Mm.
implemented as well, which hasn't been in the past. And what are the few other future initiatives that you're looking at growing, and growing the empowerment for the team, and also the members who work at the pavilions? Any new initiatives from the HR perspective
Mm.
that you're
I must,
developing?
yes, I must tell you, of course, there is a big push still for technology, because I'm a big fan of it. And what we need to get right when we give the message to the staff, of course, it's not to replace them, but it's to enhance their job, make it more efficient, but also to enhance the experience for the guest. Because in the end of the day, if you can track the data in a better way to process also for the staff, especially guest data, let's say their preferences, right? Back in the days, you always had a big Excel spreadsheet, which is pages and pages long, because not everybody will stay 10 years and remember of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, let's say, every single detail they love. So that's where actually technology is very important for us to help remind us and track everything, that we get everything right, right? And there are other great technologies. The market is pretty vast, so it always depends a little bit on the property itself, what they can and can't do, what makes sense to them. Our team is still looking at, in general, returning guests and how do we process, how do we track things. But also HandyGo is one thing that I'm a very big fan of, because it's a pocket concierge. And with COVID times, like you mentioned, certain things have changed. And guests really enjoy to click and buy, and just like as if they were online shopping. And that's with our room service now. They can just click and buy and see then the progress. Oh, staff is in the preparing the food in the kitchen and it's arriving in 10 minutes. So these kind of enhancements are helpful for both sides and also improving our operational efficiency as such. So there we are always seeing what can we do, what can we improve for the guest experience mainly. On an HR side of things, we want to keep growing this family, because that's really important. When the staff feels they are being part of something very special, then of course they will put in the extra effort. And if they feel like, oh, this is my friend that is working in F&B, I will go out of my way and do X amount, or I will do an hour overtime because I'm supporting my friend. When you don't have this key relationships between your staff, they won't help each other. So this is something we will keep on building with, just back to the basics, team buildings, outing trips, but also having a look, what technology is HR using, how can they process the training records, and there again, having a great system and logging the data and see, okay, for example, Kun Bank had the last time a customer service training 2 years ago. It's time for a refresher. So again, getting rid of the old way of doing things with an Excel spreadsheet and actually having everything in one system, and then running reports and being able to track down who needs which training.
Yeah, that's really important. I think, there's so much data in hotels that people don't really, drill down and actually do a deep dive into those numbers. That actually not only gives us a lot of insight to learn more about the customers or our team members, but also helps us improve. You mentioned about technology. I think technology is also important because it saves data and history and archives it, and also, process a lot of things that we don't really see, but numbers tells us everything. And it just makes cases easier, and also to put forward any proposals, because facts are facts, and we don't use it enough. So yeah, you're right. And and technology keeps improving and getting advanced every year. Yeah, I also see a lot of team bonding
Yes.
with your property, which is really good, because I also see staff retention also remains, like, there's not a big turnover as well. I mean, the loyalty, even when I go to visit Pavilions, it's also the same, staff that has been there for a while. So it says something a lot about the leadership and also the property that they work for. So yeah, congratulations on.
Thank you. Like you said, bonding with the property is very important. We have such a beautiful property with 43 hectares of land. So we do a weekly green day initiative. So our staff actually helps to clean our property. And that would be swiping bamboo leaves. But at the same time, after, we have a couple of drinks, a couple of snacks together, and just a laugh, because it's supposed to be fun, but still doing something good.
Yeah, actually, not only team bonding, but that's also caring for the environment,
Exactly.
which is really good, especially on our Paradise Island, where we're back we've bounced back from, well, not quite there yet from tourism, but we have seen increased number of tourists on the island. So keeping our island clean is one of our top priority.
Mm.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Elena. And just I thought I will close with maybe one or two more questions as well. Um, I know there's many properties in Pavilions,
Mhm.
and with the adoption of technology and also different initiatives that you drive for the property, do you also encourage staff to, I guess, be in different properties to have that different experiences as well, in terms of work experience in different destinations?
We do have that a little bit, but we definitely want to expand on that. For example, corporate travels a lot to the other properties because they are involved on the corporate level with the others. But even here on the Phuket property level, we had 2, 3 individuals that went to another property to see the way of working. So we always nurture this, but we have to do more. Let's say we also had HR, for example, traveling once or twice to the sister brand Explorer. So again, this cross exposure and seeing how do the other properties work. Maybe HR can exchange with the other HR some knowledge. And yes, it also helps to make the staff feel appreciated, because it feels very special when you are invited to go to the other property and spend the night there, for example, or a couple of days.
Good, good, excellent. And so you mentioned about your dad who inspires you.
Mm-hmm.
Along the way, in terms of professional
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
landscape, so who is your current inspiration in terms of driving you, motivating the work that you're doing?
That is a little bit. So I have a couple of people that inspire me, or even, let's
I
say, a
guess
slogan,
mentor, yes.
right? A mentor. So there is one mentor that doesn't know who is a mentor, because it's somebody I follow on LinkedIn that is also working in Phuket as a GM and very inspirational with his team. So
Oh,
I always follow, and I always plan to reach out for some advice. But usually through the posts that are being made, I find it very inspiring, and I'm like, oh, I should have thought of this, or maybe let's try to take it from another angle. Then of course, my current owner, I find very inspiring that he always wants me to think, of course, outside the box, but always says, okay, Elena, let's do it in a different way. So he invites certain way of thinking. For example, we had our yearly meeting with all corporate and us key management here in Phuket. And then he said, I want you guys to make the presentation with ChatGPT. So some had a really big eyes, and they were like, oh God, what am I being asked? So then, of course, together we elaborated on this and we had a look. So some that never used ChatGPT, they started to use it and understand it. So small things like this I find very inspiring, because not every owner will say, I want you to prepare my presentation with ChatGPT. And then, of course, in general, industry leaders that always inspire me. And along the way throughout my career, I always had 1 to 2 people within the company that were not always my direct boss, but in the top management, let's say, that said, Elena, I can see your talent and potential. I want to help you, and you need to do certain things. So they gave me tips what I should be doing, how to improve my job. And I always was very appreciative of this.
right. No, you're right. Sometimes that you don't know that, they're mentors. They are people that you follow and you're fans of because
Mm,
of what they do. You're right. Sometimes I don't even think about it. And I'm like, oh, there's a few people that I kind of like, oh yeah, I like to do the same, and kind of like, you know, influence in a positive way to
right.
make these changes.
And I mean, since years, I have this slogan that I always either print out for my team or I always repeat it wherever I go. It started back in Vietnam. So from Jack Ma, if you don't give up, you still have a chance. Giving up is the greatest failure. And that's how I live and work, basically. So that's what I always pass on. I'm like, you need to keep going. You have a challenge, keep going. Just don't stop here, because many people would stop here, but right at the peak of your challenge, this is where you develop your key skills and really have that resilience, which is very important. It's so easy to just say, okay, I don't like this, I go to somewhere else, the grass is greener, but it's not greener. And this is really what sets you apart, when you just keep going and you are like, oh, this challenge was actually not that hard, let's try the next one. And that's when you yourself, you realize, actually this is not more so difficult, because last year I had this challenge which was very difficult and I made it.
Yeah, that's right. And I think once you get through the first challenge, it does get easier because you're
Mm-hmm.
experienced and you've gone through it. It's
Mm-hmm.
always the fear of the unknown, that sets people back. But yeah, you have to go through it. And yeah, it can only get better. The road
Exactly.
gets easier. Well, on that positive note,
Yes.
thank you very much, Elena, for joining us today.
You.
And it's been very energetic this morning to have this interview session with you. And I've definitely learned a lot. So thank you for sharing your
Thank you so
experience.
much. It was a pleasure. Thank you, Sumi.
And I look forward to seeing you when you get back to Phuket.
Same here. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Good morning. Bye bye.